Hello, everyone. My name is Ann Pierce. I am the director of the Creative Arts Program at Soka University of America. Welcome. It is my great pleasure to introduce you to my friend, my colleague, to our artist in residence, Arie Galles. Arie has been making artwork for decades. His creative process, dedication, and thoughtfulness as it pertains to color, geometry, symbolism, numerology, are all informative to this recent series of works he will present to you this evening. It is my pleasure to introduce Arie, closing in on nearly 80 years of making work, and he's full of life and verve and power, and has my total admiration and respect. Please join me in welcoming Arie Galles.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's been a long time around this planet. Thank all the whole crew that's involved there, Susan, Claire, and everybody else in IT. This has been a major effort on all of Soka University to get this program on right now. And I'd like to welcome you to this lecture, and Khai FLow. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to have my colleagues to be around, and I see a lot of friends that I can see on the screen here that are watching right now. So let me go and start the lecture. We have it. Okay. So now this lecture, this work started after New Year's, where I've had for a while, it was even difficult for me to drive and to draw and so forth. And of course, I realized that I had cataracts. And after, the first one, the last one, etc., my eyes opened up. I saw the world a little bit differently. And here. Now, see, now we're having a problem that doesn't want to move. Okay, which one? This one?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, this arrow here? Okay. Thank you. It's technology works very well that way. What I wrote, is Khai means life in Gematria, which is the numerological value of the Hebrew letters, Het and Yud, that form the word Khai, which adds up to number 18. It means life, and 18 is one of the secret little omens or whatever you want to call it when you say to somebody, you drink to l'chaim, you drink to life. These drawings were conceived to contain the same number of images as 18. That means as micro flash perception of my cataract-free new eyes. Upon opening my eyelids, once the bandages were removed, they were radiating, fluctuating rainbows of color that overwhelmed my vision. These flowing visual sensations spur me to continue my artistic endeavor with dedicated focus and a new hope. The new hope being that I actually can see. I thought about it a lot. What would happen, say, 100 years ago, when an artist starts losing their sight, when the cataracts are blocking their eyes? There was nothing to do about it. And lucky to be here and lucky to have the medical people to come in and being able for me to look through new eyes. I'll give you first a little bit of a background for those of you who have never seen it about some of the works I've done before. And the Heartland one is oil pastels. Now, those are drawings I did of landscapes, and you can see that I used the grid. And the part about using oil pastels is that I use them anyway, on very heavy paper. It has a grain on it. So I can actually build up layers upon that comes in. You build up a richness of color because of the granulated texture of the paper. And as you can see here, like for instance, this is based upon some view from the air about some kind of, in the middle of a desert, I noticed there's someplace in Arizona, perhaps, those fields. And you notice the little cross hatchings and so on that are working on, that brings up the subtlety of the color. And even though the background itself appears to be one, it is not. It's made of many different things. So those are some earlier works the same way. You can see how the oil pastels build up the different layers and how I'm fascinated, even though this is sort of an oblique view at that time, my early works, of what's happening. And this is called interstate, for instance, and people ask me, how come I made the roads red? And it was a simple answer, the red on the maps, the major roads and so on. That was it. And so I love the fact that basically Da Vinci would have probably, as I said before, maybe given his left lung to be able to fly at 38,000 feet and look at the beauty of the landscape. Those in the Heartland series, you can see all of that. Those are quite large works, actually. Heartland 2 is when I came to SOCA. In 2004, I was hired by SOCA to be the art director, and I started doing works a little bit different. So I started being fascinated by oxbows and river floods and so forth, how the landscape is changed, even though humanity makes everything rigid and angular, nature itself breaks those kind of angularities. And you can see here how every area can be built up by many layers. So this is with the eyes that I'm seeing here and that I'm drawing, is everything was built up by layers. So it gives you this almost pointillistic point of view without my having to make points because the paper itself is doing it. This is actually one of my favorite drawings, is inspired by a night flight to Los Angeles from the East Coast. And somehow there were some kind of river winding below and there was a full moon. And as the plane moved, there was almost like a line of light and the river started shining silvery in the middle of the night. That's all I could see at that point. This is here from Australia. I was noticing those things here. And this is a diptych, quite large pieces, which I did it's basically complementary colors. The red becomes the green becomes the red, blue becomes orange, and so forth. This was sort of inspired from my imagination of how a landscape would look, a forested landscape, how it would look would there be a flood. So you notice the line of the river through the middle sort of making upside down S. And this is another one with another area with the moon shining through this. And the third, how it would look with a fall flood, And this is how the whole triptych looks like. It's, I'm very happy. It's one of the few times where my friend, the collector, came in and looked at the works and bought them instantly, which is one of the most joyous thing an artist can have, if somebody actually buys the work, besides the part that took for you to actually do that. I returned in 2014 after probably 58 years to Poland, where I grew up, and I did a whole series called Powrót. This is a multimedia works. And you notice this is what's representing Poland just right after the war. And slowly it starts receding. And now it creates, the Polish flag is the white on top and red. And this is also that the land was filled with blood, but new life came out from there. And this is a memory from my childhood, running into the fields of wheat with cornflowers and poppies. It was just such a wonderful thing for me to regain that. And this, when I went a few years later to the region of Eastern Poland where my mother and father are from, and I just drew the aerial views of that. This is actually an oil pencil. And again, it's on a rough paper, so I can build different layers based upon my observation and based upon Google and changing things or removing things I didn't like or adding things I thought should be there. And this is what the whole series looks like. Now, this series, Chromatic Modulation, Book of Circles, oil pastels on watercolor paper, that shows you what can be done with the same areas, the same rectangles, the same diagonals, etc., but with oil pastels, which means I have each one of those things about 8, maybe more layers of paint, of acrylic, pastels, I mean oil pastels that are coming in on it. And I could create this kind of a brilliant feeling about it, not the kind of dullness I had before. So you can see that by putting something on top of another color, but not pressing hard enough, whatever was underneath still pops through the other colors, and it gives a kind of vitality to this. And it's basically based on color. And it's also based on circles and grids. Now, here we're talking about the flow of life. Because life goes on every day, you have surprises. Every day you plan something. Every day you get inspired by something else. And all of a sudden, I came back from my first surgery. You know, it was amazing because they didn't put enough uh, for me to fall asleep completely. So in the middle of the eye surgery, I woke up with somebody poking my eye and I seeing lights in there scraping inside my eye. And I started talking to the doctor. And I think they didn't like that part. They just gave me another shot and I fell asleep again. I don't remember what else happened. But all of a sudden, when those of you who've had cataracts, who had them removed, it's an amazing fact. When you open up your eyes, the whole color theme that you thought you saw the rest of your life changes because you've gotten used to something. I realized that the walls in my house are white. I knew they were white, but I didn't see them as white. So I started working on this paper. I found uh, a bunch of pencils, which I probably haven't used in about 30 years or more. Those are wax pencil. And and for some reason, I decided to do it on a very smooth Bristol paper. So I was trying to do again what I saw when they were scraping inside my eyes and so forth, and what I saw when bandages were taken off later, and I started incorporating it as a new vision, but still using the same thing. And I made a few rules for myself. I use a 1/4 inch drafting tape, and there's going to be rectangles or squares, and there's going to be circles in the middle, and then trying to see, circles, of course, those are the eyes, and trying to see what this new paper and the new pencil does. And what happened is, especially if you look at the upper left corner of the image, it was kind of muddy. It wasn't the kind of brilliance that I expected, although the pencils themselves are incredibly brilliant. And I worked at it and tried to figure out the medium. And what happened, this paper is smooth, so I couldn't build up layers. And there was a lot of white of the paper shining through. And I started saying to myself, maybe I should try to see if I can start making textures myself, even before knowing what I really wanted as far as the color. But I did want to see something new. And I started doing, and as you notice, I always start working from the upper left to the lower right. And if you look at the images here in the development of it, you notice that by the time I got to that sort of a purple blue circle with a wedge in it, already I started having the feeling that I started to discover that in order to draw the way I like to see the interaction of color, I had to make texture almost like a Byzantine mosaic or stainless glass, that I had to work with that. And it was kind of exciting because you stand for hours over your drawing table and you work out, and there's a kind of serendipity of which choices of colors and shape that you're going to do. So in the beginning of every suite, I go and I return to something which is comfortable for me, which is something that I am used to doing, but all of a sudden I have a different outlook on it. So this is the first one that I said myself, wait a minute, this is what I saw during my surgery. It's this light shining in your eye, and I have, that I guess they're inside your eye and they're poking and scraping away your lenses, and sort of darkness and this brilliant light. And the way I could achieve this brilliance is to use reds and oranges and the complements of blues and greens to create this kind of a glowing orb that became the focus of my, before I started talking to the doctor as he was scraping my eye. And slowly I started evolving. What is the calmness of it? What is the I usually work in complement. So when I have something that's extremely red or vibrant that way, I'll shift to something that's blue and green and just see how the shapes modulate. And I experiment, as you can see, on different ways. And with those pencils, which is quite amazing, when you draw the basic wiggles or whatever you want to call them or shapes in one color, and then you put the other color of another pencil on top, uh, they don't really, it's almost like slides over the previous color and only attacks the color, the empty paper that was there before. And I am starting to get more of this crystalline view. So I've been changing. See, I always like diagonals. It gives some kind of an energy to the work. And also, even though this looks kind of haphazard, you notice that I've been experimenting with everything from gesture of strokes to coloration, color compositions, and so on. Going back to what I showed you before, almost like thinking of an arid desert with green irrigated fields in between, or some places only partially irrigated. So all of this is a sitting someplace. When you work, you almost are involved in it to the point, I guess, the Zen or something. You almost are observing your own hands doing the work and your eyes selecting the next pencil. How does it happen? Uh, whether it's mistake or not. Sometimes you can work very hard and not accomplish anything. Sometimes everything just keeps to flow. And this is the first one based upon what I saw after the bandages were taken off, not what was inside my eye. But what happened is that every time I would look at the source of light, there was this radiating things almost pulsating, which I can't show you in this steady form of the things bouncing back and forth, color shifting and so on. And there was a really new concept, which I have not dealt with before, to have this kind of a brilliant thing that's happening. And next one, I tried to multiply it because the things in my eyes kept changing all the time. It wasn't like one color and the other, but I also kept this one was an exercise for me to make the grid, the taped out area, which is white that you see, to make that very positively vertical and horizontal, but at the same time create bands of diagonal colors that are going across it, because it almost like reminded me, almost like looking at the fluctuating TV screen in the old days where you had rabbit ears, and you had to stand there and wobble the ears to get the image in it, and that scan, you could actually see the visible scan of it. This here too is, I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in this drawing, but that was such a phenomena when I looked at first time at the bright light. All of a sudden, this became a spinning wheel of color, almost psychedelic without drugs. It just was this everything else around the source of light became darker, and the spinning wheel, almost like one of those children's toys that you have that you push like that and it spins and gives sparks. That's exactly what was going on in my head. And I actually called the doctor and I was worried about it, because I said, what the heck is going on with my eye? Why do I have circles around everything that I look? Why every color that I see or every image I see becomes a circle? And he said, that's just you. I said, is it the lens or whatever? He said, no, it's just your eyes being stressed because of the surgery. So I kept working and trying to discover things from the past. If you notice the center on top of the right, that's going back to my technique where I actually do the work. I erase it with a eraser to create sort of a smudge and then build upon it. So I tried to see if that thing would work here. And as I kept working, the square grids wasn't talking to me. But I said, wait a minute, I used to like all those flowing river shapes, all the oxbows and so on. So what I did is I incorporated uneven rectangles onto it, created almost like a frame of very light color pencil, and then put the more intense colors in the middle. And if you look at the combination with it, it does have a sort of a flow around it, just like it had before. So no matter how many times you finish a project, no matter how many times you have done certain works, okay, every time something new happens. As an artist, you don't forget what you've done before, because really thinking about works I've done when I was a teenager or earlier in certain landscapes and so on, my basic strokes of pencil or movement of hand still remain the same after, say, 7 decades. But there's something there that every time something new happens, that pushes you, to more works. I remember something which is maybe not related to this exactly, but people were telling me many, many years ago when I finally started to, everybody was commiserating when I wasn't selling my work, but when I started to sell my work, everybody, not everybody, a lot of people started saying, well, how can you give away? How can you give away those creations of you? They're like your children. You just give it away to people and so on. And my answer to it was yes, because if you think I'm giving away my children this way because that way, you know how many things are from each one, how many images are being born in my brain that I want to keep doing it. And if I want to keep doing it, I have to get canvas, and I have to get, hey, that's a slip for Kansas, canvas, and I want to get the pencils. And no art store owner is an idiot that I can come up to him or her saying, hey, I'm handsome. I never get a cold. Can you give me some paints? I mean, that's not going to happen. They want cash. So therefore, every work that I sell provides me the freedom to open up new areas and so on that I can continue working. And so what happens is slowly when you're working with it, you start combining things and you start twisting them around. And I shifted the grids and to see what happens. It's not only that I had an idea what I'm going to do in this series, but the series itself suggested an idea where I'm going to go. So you notice that I use some of the background from the earliest drawings I showed you before, where those kind of flowing lines, but with a different pencil, and combine the newer discoveries. And sometimes I had, almost like having some opening up an egg and having twin yolks in it. See what happens to that interaction. And slowly I got to know what those pencils can do. So you notice that those pencils now, I am able to handle them and to get the color to become much more intense while still keeping the spinning and the fluctuating thing from my original perception after I had my cataracts removed. And as you see here again, I make 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I tried again the erasing part on one aspect and the new color. So almost like this is on the top is sort of the old way I was seeing it because things were out of focus. And now everything became brighter and became focused. This is actually, believe it or not, it's sort of inspired by the vision of Ezekiel of wheels within wheels and so on. And it was just an exercise for me to see if I can pull it off within this kind of a thing where I have a cross hatched of white that's going across, have diagonals going one way and the other, and plus having circles and the circles being breakout, and then in the middle having the big circle. So I tried to interact the colors with each other, and I am pretty happy with this. And then, of course, I went back, as I said, I used to have reds. I went to the blue. And that's, again, the intensity of the color. I'm able to handle the materials and changing the different textures, sometimes very meticulous and sometimes like on the upper, the center to the right that you see on your screen, just messing around, just moving my hands and seeing what the gesture does show you. This is the last drawing of this particular series. I was very happy with it because after the blue came the red. So, cool colors to red to warm colors and so on. And actually, I'm very happy with this kind of complementary green and reds. And also what I did is I stole a trick from Michelangelo. Michelangelo, when he did the Pietà and it was sitting in the Vatican right there as you enter it, he was standing and he was looking at people admiring the Pietà. And everybody, he was a very young man at that point. And everybody thought that this really famous other sculptor did it. They didn't know that Michelangelo was the person who created this sculpture. So he snuck in at night and carved on a strap that goes across the Virgin Mary's chest. He's got Michelangelo's Buonarroti facit est. Michelangelo Buonarroti did this. So it's like very strange. So what I did here, if you look at the upside down, you can finally see it. You see it says my name, Arie, here, right? And it says finished series, okay? And It tells you December 2003. Yeah. So I stuck in. And now we'll talk about this a little bit. This is what the whole series looks like. All 18 pieces. It's a nice, almost like a chest amulet. The whole thing is just, to me, I have it still hanging on the wall in my studio at home. And every day I can look at it and try to get something else because I already am thinking of the next series I started working here. Now, what happens here is that I'm going to go through this because I always do how I work. I decide on a certain combination. I decide where the squares are going to be. I make them, center them and so on. I add, the circles to it. This time I use the compass. Most of the time I don't, but for this one I did use a compass to make sure that it works. And of course, to extend the line there on the bottom, for instance, I had to go outside of the image, put another piece of paper, and then figure out where the center point is in order so the compass can make the proper circle. And then, as I told you before, I start from the left-hand side, upper left hand going to the bottom right. Why? Because I'm a right-handed person. And were I to start on the other side and I'm drawing with that, I would probably smudge it. Although in those particular pencils, they're as permanent as encaustic because they're wax. I mean, it was really kind of amazing because I could put my hand on it and really it didn't smear. It was just like painting or drawing with a candle. And I think it's very permanent, actually. I remember seeing the paintings in Pompeii, on Paestum, or in Heraklion in Greece, all the encaustic lasting 5,000 years. So definitely this piece of paper, if nobody burns it, is going to last much longer than I will. And you see how it pushes itself through, and I keep adding. And all of those, each one of the decisions are not pre-planned. They just respond to what I've done before, and the piece of work is created. So this is what the whole suite looks like at this point. And it's a friend of mine said after my previous lecture saying, boy, you're still kicking, you're still doing work. And I'm thinking to myself, yes, in a few months, I'll be 80 years old. Just kind of an honor, I think. But I don't understand why the question is, or surprised that I'm still kicking. Well, thank God's whatever is that I can still do it. I can still think. And artist never really quits. We just constantly keep doing it until our fingers fall off, I guess. And every time you do a new series, and maybe that's what's keeping some people alive. Whether they're trying to finish a book or whether they're trying to finish write a composition or whatever, and that sort of has a life force. So not only that I'm giving my life force to the drawing, but the drawing is putting back life force back at me. So I want to thank you. And, as you can say, you can look at my other works and so on the website. I think Susan's going to tell you how to ask me questions.
Okay, so I have a question for you. In your last slide, you had all of the works side by side, and this is kind of a curatorial effort. Are those images in the order that you made them, or did you arrange them based on the formal properties? I'm only curious because I think it would be a really good idea for you to make hundreds and do an entire wall. And I think it would be interesting to see different configurations, because I think that as all of those pieces side by side actually is incredibly powerful as an image, because the geometry itself, within each individual piece, you've got the circles and the diagonal things, but when you put them all together, it becomes a really interesting conversation visually. Okay.
Well, I always work on two different planes with that. On some suites that I make, because I call those things a suite, a series or a suite. Some suites, as they are right now, starting from the upper left, I mean, all the way through, they're all in chronological order. Because I was thinking about how the things evolved, from the beginning and I was able to witness my getting a better skill, or however you want to say that, or understanding of what those pencils and that particular paper can do. Because that was a surprise for me. The first one was just like, I have no clue what I'm doing here. It was one of those kind of things. But so within that kind of context, some of them when people were asking for images, the purchase or whatever, or to exhibition, I would exhibit the whole series. Some series I exhibited like the series that I did on Galicia. They were done in all different times and were represented in different times. And I would like to do a larger installations and so on. I can see that how that would work. And then there comes actually the concrete aspect about selling the works. So sometimes the people will purchase the whole suite, whether they're two people, I mean, two drawings or many drawings. Sometimes people just buy individual, pieces from that. Okay. Like my 14 Stations project, I would not break it up in any way. You remember that, right? I wouldn't break those up. But with these drawings, I actually see that I could extend it. This, as I said, life goes on as long as you can do it. Uh, the new works that I'm doing are actually, each one is about, I would say it's an acrylic paint, and it's about at least 10 sizes larger than those, dealing with similar themes, with color and so on, but larger. It'd be something, you know. You, you know, you can never really get bored as an artist. I really don't think so. You can have your blocks, like a writer's block or painter blocks, I have had times where I would sit there and look at an empty canvas and just sit there whole day looking at it, and nothing would be happening in my brain, right? And I came back the next day and something started to happen. Or I would look on the canvas, I would paint it and so on, and work at it and so on. Says, look, and then finished whatever I was doing for the day. And I said, that looks horrible. That's horrendous. How the hell could I painted such an ugly piece, right? And I walk away and I come back the next day and I say, wait a minute. That part is kind of interesting. And so I think as an artist yourself, and I see how you evolve your works, because that's one of the wonderful things about being here is I can actually stop by and say hello to Anne and see what new piece she's working. She can drop in here and do it, and that's how it should be, and with Don, who's hiding someplace there too, it's the way it is that we inspire each other. And I said so before on other aspects of it. I don't get jealous of other artists. When I see somebody's work that is good, and I look at Anne's work and I'm inspired by it, I don't say, oh my God, look how she's that, and I'm not doing it. No, it's just saying, wow, look at that. That came out of her brain. What's going to come out from my brain that can be, you know, triggered by whatever happened. And I think it happens vice versa. And as artists are concerned, you always learn from somebody else. You learn from each painting, you learn from each statement, uh, but you learn from others. And also, that I mentioned in a couple of my talks, is that the viewer is the next part too, because no matter what I saw, the viewer will see something different or maybe something new. And sometimes when you have this kind of an exchange, uh, I say, wait a minute, that's a good idea. Maybe I will do. So when you're talking about this, maybe a larger installation will happen from some other pieces. Maybe not in this pencil, which is such a thing, but maybe with broader strokes of brush, can work.
Okay.
Myself, okay.
There
I
you
don't know
go.
how to raise my hand except in the picture. How large
you
are these pieces, Aria?
Those pieces are actually small. They're about this big. They're about
What, 20 by 24?
a little bit less than that. Yeah, they're very small because the pencil is small.
Did you notice after you had your first eye done that what you thought was white was not white, it was cream colored
Right.
compared with the two eyes, correct?
Yes. But the good part was I recognized Sarah.
Oh.
That's my wife. I love her. So
She's
yeah.
lovable, that's why.
No, yeah, you do. You see, it's not only that, but you see different things when that, and like Keith said that the whole was when you tell me it was like a kaleidoscope or a trippy kind of things that were happening in the brain after thing, right? And it's true. Everybody sees something different when that happened. I have talked to a lot of other people who said they didn't say anything. So I don't know. I know I wasn't stoned, and I know that way, but I know that it was just in a certain part totally delightful and other parts scary because I didn't know what was going on. Nobody told me that you're going to be seeing those circles and sparkles and spinning wheels and halos and everything else. I said, "Oh my God, I can't walk through life with this halos running around." Although,
I am so impressed by the how you got such vivid, intense colors using pencil. I've never seen that before.
well, I saw the pencils when it's a set that I got. I swear to God, maybe 30 years ago. I don't think they even make those, you know, and I straightening out some parts in the studio. And when I move from one place to another, these things get pushed in the box and pushed in the drawer. You'll forget about it. But I looked at them and they were so bright, the color, the actual pencil tip was so bright that I was delighted to see it. And then when I started to draw with it, in the beginning, it wasn't as bright. That's why I didn't understand how come it's not. And it took the evolution of learning how to handle it that I was able to recognize the actual potential of the pencil by juxtaposing it with other pencils and juxtaposing and creating, as I said before, almost stained glass kind of a luminosity about them. And they are bright, They're nice to see it too, Jeff.
You too.
I just want to say that this work is so beautiful, Aria. I love, love, love the colors. I love the designs, and I would like to have a room full of them.
It can't be arranged, Steve.
They're just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I may add that when I was looking at them, I wasn't looking at a piece of your art in that particular pane. It was like shocking me from all sides. I didn't know what to look and what to see. So it's very explosive, very, very, I cannot say the word colorful, but the emotion is very explosive because the colors, you don't know where to look. It just jumps at you. That's what I wanted to tell you, Arie.
Thank you. Keith, were you going to ask something or say?
Me?
Keith.
Yeah. I had something in my head. What was? Oh yes, your cataract surgery. I have had 2 cataract surgeries, and I didn't have those experiences. I think the artist in you took over, because I just saw kind of flashes and that sort of thing. Nothing pretty, nothing particularly inspiring. So I think it was that part of you that kind of inspired that kind of thing.
It probably was also some Polish vodka,
Anyway, whatever it was that inspired you, the result is just gorgeous.
Thank you. Ginny, Keith, unmute
Ginny?
yourself. Yeah, Ginny, Keith.
You unmute? Thank you. Wonderful.
Go ahead.
Am I
Yeah, you're on.
okay? Can you hear me, Arie?
Yes, I can.
I love you.
He's blushing. What are you doing to him? Look at him. He's all red.
I'm verklempt. I haven't talked to my friend in a while.
Mhm.
And this man is one of the best human beings I know. And I love him very much. And
Join the club.
I'm so thrilled he's working and absolutely continuing to create incredible images and I thank you for letting us all look at it and keep it up. And I hope to see you soon.
Well, we're looking forward to that when we get back to Jersey. Keith is also a fantastic artist, and we used to have this kind of thing that we used to meet each other. There was a couple group of us, maybe only a couple of us still left, right? We used to go to each other's studios and critique each other's work and compliment and reinforce each other's work. And it was really great to be a part, which is something being now reconstructed here. But Keith, yes, and Jenny, yeah.
Hi, birthday buddy. Mwah.
Yes,
So proud of you.
Keith and I showed in exhibitions together. And you know, it's wonderful to see a mutual respect and truly a love for another human being.
This is our newest edition. This is what's keeping us busy.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you,
This
Keith.
is
And
Forrest.
yes. Yeah, I know.
Arie
We see your house in the
was the
forest.
best mentor I've ever had.
Thank you, Keith. You're a great friend and a great artist. Really, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments, questions, please?
Here. There we go. He's on my computer. So.
What is your next project now that you're finished with this?
Oh my God. I am doing a part that I started before that and that larger paintings, and I'm going back to it because I stopped to do this project. But what I've been doing now is on the back of my house, which is kind of nice. I have almost a 100, maybe a 200-degree vision of California from Saddleback Mountain all the way to the ocean. You know, the ocean is actually a little stream of blue all the way in the horizon, but they call it ocean views. So, you know, unless I stand on the roof, maybe I can see more of it. But the Saddleback Mountain is to the north of me, and I can see it every day. And what I've been doing is I've been taking photographs either every day or 3 times during the day. There's really kind of an iconic mountain around here, Saddleback. You know, it's very distinguished. You can see it from our side, or if you're coming from the desert from the east, you see it reversed and so on. And every day it's different, and different times of it different. So I'm trying to steal something from Cézanne, you know, with his Mount Saint Victoire, that he did the paintings of that. I'm not trying to beat Cézanne. I'm not trying to be Cézanne and so on, but it's a good idea to find something that I didn't think is going to be inspiring because I was doing all this sort of semi-abstract landscape, basically, based paintings. And all of a sudden, I see this mountain every day. It's clouds and cloud patterns on the mountains, and half of it is covered and rainy in middle of storms and clouds in the desert, you know. So I've been taking photographs, and the plan is to take it the whole year, and then starting something from next January, to select works from there and to see if they inspire me to do works on it, and not necessarily realistic, you know, but probably slightly augmented versions of that, you know, still using bright colors and so on, but the different changes, you know, because the mountains, I never knew about that until I moved to California, that you can have this incredible golden purple light, you know, on a mountain that, you know, and it's such a kind of brilliant pink in the morning, and a beautiful, relatively nice sky, and then above the mountain there's a halo of a cloud. You know, so there's so many different ways, and that's sort of, I don't know what's going to happen with it, but that's the next thing I'm thinking about it, is trying to do something that has to do more of a conventional landscape, you know, see what happens. I might not be able to do it. You know, I might.
You'll do it. You'll do it. You know you.
Whatever, but that's what I'm planning. That's the next thing that I'm planning. And then again, tomorrow I can get hit on the head by some other idea and all fall into it, because I've done that before too. I go into my studio, think I'm going to do one thing, and wind up doing something completely different, and then get involved in it like crazy, and forget about the universe, actually, which is not necessarily that good a thing if you have to live with people. But I try to be good. Any other comments, please? Questions? No? Okay. What I would say is thank you all for coming. Thank you all for participating in it. It's one of the wonderful things as an artist to be able to share your works with others, you know, and to talk about them and have people to understand, and also in your comments giving me different concept of what I actually have done more than I knew about it, you know. So, you know, I see some of you, I don't think I see all of you, but I see David Matlin there, I see. And I see some, yeah, I see Gail in the background, I think, yes. You know, another great writer and a painter artist behind there. It's so good, you know, and Eric and Teresa, I mean, you know, whoever I can see. And it's just nice. You know, one of the things that I missed when I came to SoCA, I missed my friends from there. You know, being 32 years and so on, you know, our family built up friendship. It's so good to see some of you people here again, you know. So Keith, Jeff, nice to see you again, really. And you know, someday I'm gonna come back to I got, yes, I said Jeff. I said no, you know, see to Jersey, invade you private spaces and tell a few jokes, etc., and hopefully hear from you and how things are doing with the families and your lives. So really look forward to that. Okay, you know, and the old Yiddish saying, as belebt de lebman, which means if you live, you live to see it, you know, and hopefully that's how it's going to be. So thank you greatly for being here, all of you. If I didn't mention you, I still appreciate you because of some of you I don't see. But thank you greatly for that. And I look forward that next November, I'm going to be doing another thing, you know, another presentation. And that's going to be sort of like that movie, All Things, All the Time, or whatever. I don't remember the thing, but it actually looks like some scrambled eggs with peaches or something. I don't know, but it's going to be a work that I'm thinking about what the artist can do and focus in the whole life around, not just in the actual visual parts of it. So thanks again.